Hey guys, and welcome to Tech Deck Down Under. This is a brand new YouTube channel, and I'm hoping to provide you with some quality, unbiased tech reviews. I'm also based out of Sydney, Australia, so I will also be including some Australian specific information, pricing, availability, deals, local support options, and so on. So, as you would have seen from the title, my first review is of a vacuum cleaner. I'm going to review the LG Cord Zero Compressor Ultra model here. With the kids running around the house, we found that we need as much help as possible, and we decided to try out a couple of different vacuum cleaners. And I thought, why not make some reviews and share my opinion from a practical day-to-day perspective and also long-term ownership, because I think that's one aspect that's often left out in these reviews, what it means to own these machines over the long term. And I am going to try my best to cover that off. So with that, let's get started. So the LG Cord Zero lies in the premium vacuum segment with the likes of the Miele HX1, which was released recently, and also the Samsung Jet series, the Jet 70 and Jet 90, which have also proved to be quite popular. And not to forget the Dyson V11s and V11 art size. So before we get started, I just want to mention that I do have an index to this video, so if you wanted to, you could skip ahead and go right to the end where I have listed all the pros and cons and so on. But in this segment, I'm going to give you a breakdown of all the accessories that come with this vacuum cleaner, and I'm going to talk a little bit about those accessories. So overall, the impression you get when you unbox the LG Cord Zero is that the unit itself and all its accessories are of extremely high quality. And I would say it's definitely at par with the Dysons and the Tinicos and the Samsung premium vacuum cleaners, if not better. I actually feel like when you look at this product in flesh, it feels better than most other brands. So it comes with the multi-surface nozzle, which you can use on hard floors, carpets, or even rugs. It's got fairly small gates, so you're not going to be able to pick up very large debris with it. It's got plastic wheels, and then you've got a screw that helps you take it apart for cleaning and so on. I didn't have any problems with hair tangles on this particular brush. I think it's pretty good at resisting tangles. Then you also have the slim power drive nozzle. I think this is the second iteration of their original hard floor nozzle. It's a little bit slimmer, so it gets under furniture a little bit better. And this new compressor line comes with this slim nozzle, and it works really well. And then it also comes with something they call the slim power drive nozzle. This nozzle actually comes with rubber bristles instead of carbon fiber. I think that's great on floors, but it does limit its usability on carpets or any carpet surface, like for instance, using it in your car. And then we have the LG bedding power punch, which is this sort of unique looking nozzle that vibrates and helps you get dust out. It works okay. And then it's got this flexible crevice tool also included within the box. I must say this is one of the best flexible crevice tools I've seen ever included with a vacuum cleaner. I've owned the Dyson V11 before, which came with its own version of this, but this one's nice because it's got nice and thick rubber, so it retains the suction even when it's bent. And then it's got this sort of retractable brush tip, which it's got semi-soft bristles. All in all, pretty great for those tight spots, especially when vacuuming your car. And then you've got this sort of stock standard combination tool. You can turn it into a brush tip or just a normal tip. And you've also got the standard crevice tool, which is also used to take the cyclones out, as I'll show you later. Also included in the box is this multi-angle dusting brush. It's got soft bristles, and it's probably better than any dusting brush I've seen included with a vacuum cleaner. You can swivel this around a couple of ways, as you can see, and you can use it to clean your car's dashboard or your blinds, for instance. All in all, pretty great tool for a variety of different situations. This package also comes with an extension hose, pretty nice for cleaning your car when you can just prop up the vacuum cleaner on the seat and clean away. And then you have the LG Power Drive Mop. You can tell by now that they've overused the word power a little bit in their marketing. Anyway, the idea here is that there's a duct up at the front, which is supposed to help you vacuum up light debris as you're mopping the floor with those spinning wheels, which will obviously have mop pads on them. You have to dip those mop pads in water first, but there's a switcher on the side that helps you retain moisture levels on those mop pads. So you can have less water more water, depending on how wet you want your floors to be at the end of your mopping. There's a tank up at the front in which you put the water, comes out with the press of a button. And if you swivel it around, you can actually see that there is a rubber door which you can open to fill it up with the water. And this is the water that's going to end up on your mop pads. So all in all, pretty well thought out, I must say, and a pretty high quality nozzle. And we'll see in our tests later how it performs. So on to the main unit itself. The main unit is actually quite premium. It feels solid when you hold it in your hand. It's got a click mechanism for the attachments, as most of these premium vacuum cleaners do. They come off fairly easily and they go on pretty firmly. Around the side of the main unit, you've got this red lever, which when you push down, it actually compresses the dirt that you already have in the canister. And the idea there is that it's supposed to help you vacuum more, and it's also useful when you're emptying the vacuum cleaner, as we'll see a little bit later. Up at the top, you've got the HEPA filter, or the post-motor filter as they call it, and we'll talk about the part replacement costs and availability and so on a little bit later. And inside that cap, you've got the pre-motor filter. This machine has cyclone dust filtration, so you'll not see this filter getting dirty too often. In fact, in about 2 months of vacuuming, I've only cleaned that once and I haven't washed it yet. So let's talk about basic maintenance. To empty the vacuum cleaner canister, you just have to push down on this button up at the front. It's reasonably easy. It works pretty well. The lid pops open and all the dirt falls out. And then you've got this lever around the side to help you clean the dust shroud of any hair, dust and so on that may be on it. For more stubborn dirt or dust, you can actually remove the cyclone entirely with the crevice tool. It's a pretty clever idea because it avoids you having to actually directly touch it. And you can also put it back using the crevice tool after you've cleaned it. You can also go ahead and remove that cyclone unit with your hand if you don't mind getting your hand a bit dusty. And you can fit it with your hand again as well. It goes on and comes off fairly easily. So all in all, pretty easy to remove it, pretty easy to put it back, and that crevice tool is handy for those situations when it's really dirty. So on to controls, and the LG Cord Zero has a pretty nice control panel. It's got it's an on button up at the top and then a minus plus button at the bottom. The minus button also doubles up as a Wi-Fi button. We'll see a little bit later on how useful that is. To engage turbo mode or the max power mode, you've got to hold down that plus button for 3 seconds. And I'm really not a big fan of that because it forgets that setting when you turn the vacuum cleaner off. So if you turn it back on, it's going to then start from the lowest power setting again. So let's look at the performance of the LG Cord Zero a little bit. I wanted to start this segment by taking a look at the LG PowerDrive Mop, simply because I think this is sort of the unique defining feature of the LG Cord Zero. It comes with this mop as a standard accessory in the Ultra and Aqua model levels. In Australia, you can also buy this separately for 230 Australian dollars, I believe. And it is a pretty unique tool. The Samsung Jet series tries to do something similar, but I think their mop head is really a sweeper where you have to manually wet the mop pads, and it also doesn't vacuum at the same time. So I think what the LG is doing is pretty unique in its own way. So as you can see in this particular test, I put down some crumbled Weet-Bix and tomato sauce onto my perfectly white coffee table. My wife wasn't too impressed, but all good in the name of science, right? And then I went on to clean that mess up with my LG PowerDrive mop. As you can see, it's doing a pretty good job of cleaning. You just have to be mindful that the mop pads are at the back and the vacuum head is in front. So you need to tackle your debris head on, and you sort of need to back into any wet stains that you might have. If you actually try and vacuum up the sauce, then it's going to end up in your tubes and your vacuum cleaner and so on, and you're just going to have a really nasty mess to clean afterwards. Another thing to note is that you can actually turn off the vacuuming function. Pressing the power button once actually turns on the mop pads, and then if you use the plus and minus buttons, that's how you turn on the suction. So you can have the suction off and just use this as an electric mop, like the Bissell Spin Wave, for instance. So it does do that job reasonably well. If you do have a lot of wet stains and you don't really want the suction because you're afraid all of that's going to get sucked up, then you can turn off the vacuum function. So what I did for my main test is that I laid down 3 different debris sizes on my alfresco flooring outside, and first of all, I used the multi-surface brush to pick up half of it, and then in the second part of the test, I'm going to use the soft roller head. So with the small debris, you can see that the multi-surface brush does extremely well. It picked up all of it without any problems whatsoever. With the medium debris, it did okay, I would say. The multi-surface brush did start to kick a lot of that debris forward, and a lot of it ended up in my grass, which you can't see from this angle, and I apologize for that. I need to find a better way of making these videos, and I can probably use something like vacuum walls as a reference to do that. But you get the picture. It sort of starts, because this is also round debris, these were dried peas. It started to kick those forward a little bit, but it picked up, I would say, 80 to 90% of the stuff I had laid out on the floor. The soft roller, on the other hand, which I'm about to test, again, it did really well on the fine debris, or the smallest size debris. It was just a little bit uncomfortable to push this roller on this floor, because every time there was a gap between the tiles, it would sort of get stuck. And I think this has just got to do with the design of the roller itself. I didn't experience this so much on the hardwood floors inside my house, but yes, that did happen on these outdoor tiles. But it's not a big problem. So it did really well on the fine debris. Keep in mind, I'm still using the lower settings. So I'm using the lowest setting or the medium setting. I haven't boosted to turbo mode, just because more often than not, you're going to be using those 2 settings to get the most out of your battery life. And the turbo mode only lasts 6 minutes, so you're not going to be using that a lot. So I didn't see any point in testing how well it does in that mode. So the soft roller did a lot better with the medium-sized debris, I felt. And then when I moved on to the larger size debris with the soft roller, it picked up everything, or so I thought. But at the end of the test, I noticed that just due to the sheer volume of stuff I had picked up from the first and the second test, my bin wasn't full, but the vent where it actually enters the vacuum cleaner, that was clogged. And when I lifted the vacuum cleaner up and took the head off, stuff fell out. So that did happen. But this is quite an extreme test, and I wouldn't imagine you'd put down this much stuff on your floor on a day-to-day basis. So I'm not really going to hold that against the LG. I think a lot of vacuum cleaners would have done the same. And I'll do a comparison in my next video of this same test with the Dyson. So before I give you my closing comments, I just want to take a few moments to talk about long-term ownership and what it means for you as an LG Cord Zero owner if you need help during the warranty period and after. So yes, you do get the 2 years parts and labor on the handstick itself, and they say that it's a 10-year warranty on the motor, but it's actually a 2-year warranty on parts and labor, and then the balance of 8 years is only on parts. So during that period, they could technically charge you X amount of money and say that it's for labor and claim that the motor doesn't cost much. I don't know if they do that. I haven't had a chance to test this theory out, but I just feel like not covering labor in Australia is a pretty big omission. I mean, parts are not going to cost all that much, but the labor cost is usually quite high. So just keep that in mind. Most other manufacturers won't even give you the 10-year warranty. They'll only give you the 2 years. Just something to keep in mind. And also the fact that on the battery itself, you only get the 1-year warranty. So the next thing I want to talk about is service centers. And LG actually doesn't have, they don't run their own service centers, but they outsource servicing to various different businesses. The website actually is very useful in terms of locating one of these businesses. So you can hop on the website and put in your postcode, and it'll give you a list of service shops or service centers that are in the vicinity. So I'd highly recommend you do that before making a purchase, because if you do need servicing for your LG, you're going to have to take that in to the service center. And I know this because I actually ran a test where I chatted with the LG team online, and I said to them, look, I have a problem with my unit where there is a quote unquote funny smell coming from it. And what would normally happen with a company like Dyson, for instance, is that they would say, okay, no problem. We'll send you a new unit and you send us the old one back. But LG said, okay, no problem. We'll get the service center to contact you, and then you probably need to bring it in to them or post it to them, and they'll look at it. So you'll be without a unit for a few days if you post it to them. If you bring it in, they might fix it or keep it. Really depends on what the problem is. So I went ahead with the process, and the service center did contact me after about 3 or 4 days, and they said that you can either post it or bring it to us. Fortunately for me, there was a service center within about 20k, so not too bad. But if that's not the case for you, then you need to be aware of that before buying the machine. Just want to talk about parts quickly and the availability of parts in Australia, in particular for the LG. I know this has been a bit of a concern from online reviews and so on, based on my research. And there's a website called Statewide Appliances. It's statewide.app.com.au. You might have heard of it. It lists and stocks a lot of different parts for Philips and LG and all these different brands. So yes, it has the most comprehensive listing of parts for the LG Cord Zero. No, they're not cheap, but at least they're available and they're ready for you to purchase. I just want to talk about the LG app very quickly. Now, this vacuum cleaner does have support for the LG Think app, and I already have an LG TV, so it's kind of nice to see all your appliances listed under that app. But in terms of functionality itself, there isn't really anything you need an app for with a handheld vacuum cleaner. I mean, with a robot vacuum cleaner, you'd understand because you can actually control the unit through your app. But that's not the case with a handheld. There really isn't much that you need to do with an app. However, as you can see in the screenshot, there's one feature that I found useful is that it sends you a notification when your vacuum cleaner is done charging. So if you finished a long cleaning session and run out of all your batteries, then it'll let you know when your vacuum cleaner is ready to use again. So I found that remotely useful. But let me know down below what you think in the comments about this particular feature. Before I do my closing comments, I just wanted to give you a quick comparison of the maintenance costs for the LG versus its competitors. And this is where I'm going to rant a little bit, because as you can see from that table, if I wanted to replace the HEPA filter and the pre-motor filter for the LG Cord Zero, it's going to cost me a whopping 120 Australian dollars. That's in comparison to $25 for the V11 or $100 for the Samsung Jet 70 or 90. And I can attribute this partially to the design of the LG itself, where the HEPA filter is within the lid, so you got to replace the whole lid. And yes, you can wash it and use it for a number of years, but it's a paper filter at the end of the day. You're going to have to replace it at some stage. To their credit, LG does give you a second pre-motor filter in the box, so that should help you keep that cost down initially. And it's also a very convenient inclusion because you can wash one of the filters and keep it aside and use the second one, so it doesn't really hold you up in terms of vacuuming. Also, going down the grid, that replacement battery for the LG costs you $193 versus $200 for the Dyson V11 battery. I don't understand why the battery for the LG costs this much, because it's a 2000 milliamp hour battery versus the Dyson, which is 3600 milliamp hours. So it's just sort of coming down to a pattern where they're not really making accessories easy to purchase for the LG overall. Yes, you're not going to need a lot of these accessories over the lifetime, hopefully, but if you do, then it is going to cost you a lot more. To sum it up, there is a lot to like about the LG Cord Zero. The pros, well, it has that unique mopping/vacuum feature. And I say unique because LG is really the only manufacturer that offers this out of the box. And they support this accessory as part of their set of tools that they provide. Whereas with something like a Dyson, for instance, you can probably get a mop head with a vacuum on it that does something similar, but that'll be a third-party aftermarket accessory. So it's pretty great that LG offers this as a standard accessory to its vacuums. It's comparatively lightweight. I didn't really have any problems using this. I think it's roughly a kilo lighter than the V11, which is pretty good in terms of weight. It is also quite well balanced. I didn't find that it was pulling down on my hand too much when used in handheld mode. It was also quite comfortable to use in the car. The attachments, I must say, are really very, very high quality, and it definitely runs circles around something like a Dyson in terms of the quality of attachments themselves. The two batteries and charging stand, I would say, yes, it is a pro, and I've listed it there because, yes, you have the flexibility of having one battery in the vacuum and the second one charging in the meantime. But I'd like to see the batteries actually run for slightly longer than they do, because each of the batteries in turbo mode only lasts about 5 to 6 minutes. So it seems more like something they've done to compensate the short battery life than a feature, which they are selling it as a feature, yes. But I can think of a lot of other vacuums which would run the equivalent of two batteries for the Cord Zero in a single battery. So just something to keep in mind. So moving on to the cons, yes, this is not a cheap machine. I personally paid 1200 Australian dollars for mine. So it's up there with the premium vacuum cleaners. It's not any cheaper or more expensive, to be honest. I think all of the premium vacuum cleaners lie in the same range. However, the bigger con I thought was the expensive consumables, because that's not necessarily a problem with other vacuum cleaners. And then the after sales support, I find, and I'm using Dyson again as a gold standard for this, it does fall a little bit short because you have to physically take your vacuum cleaner into the shop to get a repair or send it out there via post, both of which are slightly inconvenient, and you're going to be without a cleaner for a few days. I'd also like to talk about performance from more of a neutral standpoint, I suppose. This vacuum cleaner performs really well on hard floors. It'll perform well on any hard floor. The soft, fluffy head is actually really competent. It picks up small, medium, large debris quite well. However, I found that the accessories provided limit its usability on carpets quite a lot. Because the small roller head they provide you with is actually a rubber bristle roller head, it doesn't work very well in the car, to be honest, because it's not going to sort of agitate that carpet in your car very well to get all that dust and debris off, or the hair especially. So it does limit its usability a little bit, and then the multi-surface head doesn't work all that well for deep cleaning carpets because it doesn't really have enough suction to latch onto the carpet. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'm going to be doing fortnightly tech reviews. So if you have any specific requests, please leave a comment down below. Thank you for watching.